The Longbox Crusade presents
Action Film Face-Off.
This episode, it's 2003 versus 2011.
Oi, 2 films into.
Oi, oi! 1 film leaves.
2 men enter, 1 man leaves. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hit.
All right, welcome back to Action Film Face-Off. This is a show where 2 random years are selected. My brother brings an action film from one of the random years. I bring an action film from the other random year. These 2 films do battle using a variety of criteria that's never in the proper order. And a champion will be crowned by the end of the episode. I am Jared Albrecht, the Death Probe. My co-host is my brother Jason, the Weasel Skull. We are both military combat vets who take our action seriously, but not too seriously. So let's have some fun. Jason, what are we talking about here? Are we talking blind fires, half blinds, full blinds, no blinds? It's half for me. I'd seen Italian Job, hadn't seen Killer Elite.
It's no blinds for me, but they've both been so long that it was like almost like watching them fresh again.
All right.
Yes, indeed. We're going to score each of today's films on a scale of 1 to 10 in 5 categories. What are those categories for all you who are tuning in for the first time? Well, it's story, it's overall spectacle, it's best action scene, the hero, and the villain. And once again, if it's your first time listening, I apologize in advance because it's not going to be in that order. You're going to say, well, why don't you just change it and put it in the right order? Because we don't want to. There's that.
Stay on your toes.
Right. You gotta duck and weave. We will, though, as always, have the deduction round at the end where up to 10 points can be subtracted from the film's total for whatever we determine is the low point of the movie. Them's the rules.
Them's are the rules, and I'm about to introduce our sniper for this episode. But Jason, we have a bit of business to take care of before we introduce our super secret sniper, which is Rick Heineken. We have a little audio to listen to. We had a send-in. So let's listen to our send-in real quick.
Oh, wow. Making my night.
Hey, what's up, LBC crew? It's Matt Passo, a.k.a. Serpy Matt. You guys know I love so many shows on the network, but I just wanted to call and give a shout-out to Action Film Face-Off because it has been fueling a lot of my cardio time lately. I am just digging it so much. Jason and Jared make an awesome duo going through action films from the past all the way up to the present. The one thing I'll say is if you're looking for something for your cardio, every 80s film needs a good montage. Put this on, listen to these guys talk about some great action movies, and you've got your own montage with your own training. And then maybe you'll be in an action film one day. All right, take care, guys. Have a good one. Looking forward to Halloween Film Face-Off in October. Hopefully we got some good ones. Thanks. Bye.
Oh, man, that was a good voicemail. What'd you think, Jason?
Oh, it is. Boy, that does me cockles good. It's did we ever settle? Is it Halloween Film Face-Off or Horror Film Face-Off?
I think we technically call it Horror Film Face-Off, but it comes out of Halloween, and it's all HFFO, so whatever.
whatever. We're just glad that you listen. We're glad that we can accompany you on your run, because I ain't running with you, not physically, but if I'm with you in spirit, that does my heart good. Thanks. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, Matt, appreciate that. I think he's been angling behind the scenes to be the guest for HFFO. We'll have to see. If not this year, we're going to pencil it in for next year. I assure you. Believe it or not, our schedule's booked throughout the whole year. Anyways, you know what? He's waited in the wings. His sniper rifle is loaded. We originally asked him if he wanted to do this job. He said no.
Then I said, what's the job?
Then he said, what's the job? So we are joined by our sniper friend. Now, as a reminder, sniper has 1 point to give in each category. So they can sway the scoring by a total of 5 points. Let's meet the sniper for this episode. It is Rick Heineken from Unpacking the Power of Power Pack. Welcome back, Rick.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen. It is fantastic to be back in this lovely, lovely studio watching some action films with you, gentlemen, and hearing the praises that are being sung in your honor, as well they should be for your show. I think Matt has got it absolutely correct. Listening to you guys is an absolute joy. I like to listen to many, many podcasts, and I enjoy listening to them while I'm doing any other activity that I possibly can. And it's a great distraction. And listening to you guys talk about movies, whether I agree with you or not, that can also get the heart rate pumping as well. But it's a lot of fun. You guys do a good job in this show and all the other shows. So hats off to you, Matt, for a wonderful, wonderful little message you left for them.
What's the most you've ever screamed at your device while listening to this show? Like, I can't believe you guys didn't like this or liked that, or I don't know, man. It sounds like you have hostility.
No. I don't know exactly when, but one of the many, many times that you have said something so negative about the X-Men, and I'm right there with Weasel Skull, and we're just like, no.
Oh, okay. So not Action Film Face Off. Okay, not Action Film Face Off.
I'm sure that there's something in Action Film Face Off that I was yelling at you for. I think the entire episode when you covered Highlander, I was screaming at you because I should have been on.
Okay. I understand.
Yeah, there's a lot of diehard Highlander fans out there. That's what I found out.
All of Highlander, the TV show, on VHS.
Oh, well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I'm glad you're at least engaged with the show, because if you were just tuned out, then you wouldn't be yelling at us. In my own defense, Your Honor, when Claremont hits a home run, I call it. I say, this was a good one.
Fair enough.
But I don't love him as much as you guys. But you guys were into it in the 80s. Like, it's a little harder to go back sometimes. But hey, Claremont, he's a genius for a reason. I will say that publicly right here. So you could calm. Everyone's calm. We're all friends. Besides, we're not talking comics. We're talking movies. So before we enter the Videodome arena, we are thrilled to kick off this episode with special shout outs to our Crusaders Club members. These are the fine folks who have joined our crusade and possibly yell at me at their device as well. They enjoy early access to special Longbox episodes. They get voting on show content. They get priority seating to be on shows. Rick is taking advantage of that right now. Probably would have invited him anyway, but hey, we'll still take his money. These are folks reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
Alan W. Wright.
Angelica Wolf.
Auburn Elvis.
Bill Beer.
Braxton Underwood.
Clinton Robinson.
Captain Entropy.
Clark Westfield.
Dave Collins. Battle Wagon.
Ezra Gallo.
Gary V.
Gene, the podcasting machine Hendricks.
Gerald Green.
Heinz K.
Jason Keane.
Jason Lady.
My friend from Portland, Jeff Bollier.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarman. I hope you like Jim Jarman too.
Jim Neal.
Joe Thomas.
John Watson.
The slacker himself, Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Captivating Kathy Bright, the MVP.
Matt and Lissy Iso.
Mark Ross.
Maxwell Traver.
Miranda W.
Day Devins.
Paul Heeks.
Hey, Rick from Jeff and Rick Present.
It's you.
It's me. It's me.
Rob Morgan.
Samantha Mamie.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 67.
Spreadsheet.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Price.
Tony Pennington.
And Toronto Cop.
If we missed anyone on the list, we apologize. Please keep in mind we record these episodes well in advance of release, so if you're a recent edition, we will add you soon, but no worries. Let us know we missed you by sending a hate-filled email to contact@longboxcrusade.com, and we'll get it squared away. If you're asking yourself, how do I become a Crusaders Club member? Well, it's very simple. Patreon.com/longboxcrusade for as little as $1 for shiny quarters every month. You'll get access to the amazing world of Crusaders Club. We would love to have you, so come check it out.
Well, less talking. Let's jump in this Fiat and start rocking. And let's get back to the combat and learn a bit about the film Gladiators about to battle for your pleasure.
This episode, I was assigned the year of 2003, and I selected The Italian Job. What year did the randomizer select for you, Jason?
Well, I got 2011, and I put into our Videodome arena Killer Elite.
I guess they've probably figured out by now that we have a bit of a Jason Statham theme going on in this episode, and it's a fine matchup. That's important to point out that this is Jared versus Jason. We each had to select from our own assigned year, so I might like his section better than mine or vice versa. It's all about us discussing some beloved action films, coming to a consensus on which one is this episode's champion. Quick around the room of where we saw it. I have both of these on my Plex, so that's how I watched them. Jason?
I have the Blu-rays for both of them, so that's how I watch them.
Rick?
I have the Italian Job on my Plex server, and for some weird reason, I managed to catch Killer Elite on somebody else's Plex server in their own home, on their own TV.
That's right.
With them sitting next to me.
Rick and I were couch buddies for this one. We watched Killer Elite together.
You're like Statham and De Niro.
That's right. Well, now it's time for the spoiler warning. So if you haven't seen either of these and you want to watch them, before you proceed with the podcast, pause it here. Join us at the end of this musical break. All right, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed those films. Let me jump in with some quick info on 2003's The Italian Job.
Daddy, come by. We'll have some breakfast.
It'll be a long trip. I'm in Venice.
Learn the language of poetry, art, romance, sex.
Unlike you, my friend, I don't need a guidebook.
The plan was flawless.
The next 45 minutes, we own this place, gentlemen.
Okay, Steve, it's right above you.
The heist was perfect. The escape was clean.
What are you going to do with your share?
I'm going to get a NAT T77 with 70-watt amps and Burr Brown VACs. It's a big stereo. Speakers so loud they blow women's clothes off.
The only threat was the one they never saw coming.
What the hell are you doing?
I made a few plans of my own.
There's nowhere you can go where we won't find you.
That's probably right, John.
Found him, Stella. It's in Los Angeles.
Stealing that gold is not going to bring my father back.
It's not about the gold. John was like a father to me, too. And I just can't move on until I've set things right.
They're not in it for the pay.
Hey, Steve?
Gang's all here.
You have no idea how hard it is for me not to reach across this table and kill you.
You want to start the game up again? That's fine with me.
They're in it for the payback.
Come on!
You'll try to take out my guards. I have 5 of them that you don't know about.
I don't do dogs. I had a real bad experience.
What happened?
I had a bad experience.
You tried to hack the system.
You ready to create the biggest traffic jam in the history of Los Angeles?
I'm so ready.
Oops.
You gonna try to crack my safe?
You took my father from me. I'm taking this.
You just blew the best thing you had going for you. You just blew the element of surprise.
Surprised?
Why do you get to punch him and I don't?
Paramount Pictures presents
The gold is coming to us. Gridlock every route except for the one we choose. Force that truck to go exactly where we want it to go.
Stop them before they hit the street. This is it, guys. Moment of truth.
We made our play, and I came out on top.
It's over when I say it's over.
5 seconds of paint on the train.
Mark Wahlberg, Charlize Theron, Edward Norton, Seth Green, Jason Statham, Mos Def, and Donald Sutherland.
You're out of moves. The game is over. Just give up already.
You've got no imagination.
What happened to my truck? Got the Holy Spirit.
The Italian Job.
You know this was never about the gold.
Whatever helps you sleep at night, sweetheart.
Cast and crew is as follows. It stars Mark Wahlberg, Charlize Theron, Edward Norton, and of course Jason Statham, and Mos Def, and like Seth Green, and a bunch of other people. But it was directed by F. Gary Gray. Synopsis goes a little something like this. Charlie runs a highly skilled crew of thieves, and everything is going really well until one of his crew gets greedy, betrays the team, and kills their beloved mentor in the process. So, naturally, the crew puts all their considerable skills into getting even. But they're going to need some help from their mentor's daughter, and luckily, she's ridiculously attractive. Here is the interesting trivia for you. Got you 3. In interviews, Jason Statham said that in addition to the stunt driving course that they all received, he got 2 days of driving tuition from Damon Hill, the British ex-world champion Formula One driver. However, all the cast members acknowledged that Charlize Theron was easily the best driver amongst them. Good for you, Charlize. Item number 2. The principal actors in this movie did most of the stunt driving themselves. While all the principals needed stunt driving lessons, Yassine Bey, a.k.a. Mos Def, who is from New York City, needed a little more extra work because he didn't have a driver's license at the onset of production because he's a New York City guy. Never needed one.
Nope.
So I guess that part where he was freaking out about them launch into the subway telling you it probably wasn't acting. That was probably
No, actually, no. He'd probably be used to that.
Oh, yeah.
In New York City.
Cab drivers.
Cab drivers. Yeah.
Third and final trivia bit. Lyle, as played by Seth Green, claims that he was the creator of Napster, the first online file sharing service for music. I got to tell you guys, I laughed when I saw the movie because it's still funny to me, but I realize that our kids are not going to get that joke at all.
I was wondering if Jordan watched it and was like, what?
No, I don't think so. But there's some fun stuff in there. In the flashback scene where it actually gets the disc is stolen out of the PC, that is actually Sean Fanning, the legitimate creator of Napster, in that scene.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
And they decided to make sure they included in the scene. You can just barely make out the bottom of a Metallica poster on the wall, because if you remember, Metallica was the ones that like fought them tooth and nail. So it was a little in joke about Napster and Metallica.
I remember seeing this film in the theater, and I remember seeing that on screen. Everybody in the theater at that time knew it. And like, we all knew at that time that was Sean Fanning. It's like, yep, that's funny. I get that.
And as we get further and further from 2003,
nope, nothing anymore.
No,
man, I love Napster. I was on Napster for days. Those were fun days.
Those were good times.
They were, man. If that was piracy, man, call me Captain Hook or something, because I running Seven Seas. Anyway, now I will give you the rundown on 2011's Killer Elite.
Ruthless. Game's over. It killed Craig and Harris. We have to do something. Close it down. You have no idea who you're messing with. Did you hear this number? He's like a father to you, right? You don't do this, it's a dead man.
Listen, Danny's gonna come back for me. When he does, you're out of here. He's your worst nightmare.
We have to find him. This con don't scare easy. This ends today.
War isn't over till both sides say it is.
Now the gloves are off. You had him, you let him get away. It's over. All right, let's finish this. This guy is good.
You have no idea.
Man, you really are one crazy son of a...
So that's what this is all about.
I gotta cover my expenses.
Cast and crew included Jason Statham and Clive Owen, some other people, but those are the two. You know, Robert De Niro was in there, but really it's Jason Statham and Clive Owen. It's directed by Gary Bekendry. Synopsis goes a little something like this. Danny's a professional killer who's done one job too many. When his last job goes bad and he ends up wounded, Danny decides it's time to retire. Before he can settle into his new life, however, Danny's friend and mentor, Hunter, is kidnapped by a ruthless oil sheik who forces Danny back into the business. In order to free his former partner, Danny must do one last job, and it's a simple one. He has to murder 3 SAS soldiers, make it look like accidents, and yet get confessions from the victims that they murdered the sheik's sons. Easy, right? Couple trivia nuggets. My trivia nuggets were a little bit lean, but I thought this one was interesting because it says it's based on a true story. It's based off the book called The Feathermen by Sir Ranulph Fiennes, I'm guessing, who was an English adventurer, former SAS person and explorer. It was the inspiration for the film, but it caused a bit of controversy amongst members of the SAS regiment and the British government, who all claimed that it was total garbage. So it ruffled some feathers, we should say.
So he's the Richard Marcinko of England.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. I like Richard Marcinko's books, man. They're good. The second thing is, interestingly, Robert De Niro is the only American cast in this film. The body count, 21. 21 bodies hit the floor in this one, just in case you're keeping score. And now that we have the basics on today's contestants.
Ladies and gentlemen, test your might. Let's get ready to rumble! Fight! It's a street fight, street fight.
All right. Let's get into it. First, a reminder of Match Game. We have 2 films, 5 categories. I have not seen Jason's scores. He has not seen mine. We can have up to 10 possible matches. So it's time for you to guess. Rick, I know you like to guess live on the show.
I will go ahead and throw down here that there is going to be 6 matches.
That's what I would have guessed. That's a good guess. All right, I got you down for 6. And let's set your score barometer. As a reminder, we got these at 1 through 10. And here on this show, a 5 is average. It means it's okay, it's fine, it did its job. It's what you'd see in a decent made-for-TV movie. That's what a 5 is. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you got a good movie. And 4, 3, 2, 1, you got things to work on. Having said all that, let's get into round 1.
Get over here!
Round 1 is the story. How engaging and original is your story? We are going to talk about The Italian Job 2003. And Rick, you have the floor.
Well, I like this movie. I like this movie a lot. I think that it is fun. I think that it has got a good story. It's got good beats to it. You don't have many moments of slow pace. There's always something happening, some good conversation, some moving of the plot, something funny, something interesting. Everybody's got a part to play in it. So I think it's got some good originality, even though it is based upon another movie. But it's not really based on that other movie, too. That other movie, The First Italian Job, is totally different from this. It's got a couple of little things in there that have some ways of looking at it the same way. But mostly the storyline, the structure, it's all different. And it's fun. It's a good movie. I think it's a strong story, easy to follow, and just enjoyable popcorn summer film.
Well said, sir. Well said. Weasel Skull.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we take these type of movies, these are kind of more in the heist thriller category than your traditional action film. So I look at this through a little bit more of a lens. The story needs to be complicated enough to be interesting, but not too complicated where I get confused easily. And so this one hit the mark right on the head. It had some twists and turns, but it wasn't overly complex. The second piece that I look at in films like this is the ensemble, right? I mean, Mark Wahlberg's the star. He's the leading man in this film. So the question is, how do the people that are filling out the cast, how well do they do? And I think they do an excellent job. Each of them is memorable. Like Rick said, they're all given something to do. They all have interesting personality, quirks, and traits. And then the third thing is the payoff at the end. And I thought the payoff was really good. So overall, going to get a decent score from me on story.
Echo what you guys both said. I got a good score coming forward as well, which says a lot. When you put a name like Italian Job in a movie and you're like, all right, so you squared off against Michael Caine. Marky Mark's going to square off against Michael Caine. But like Rick said, it's not a remake. So it's DNA from and a new version of, very loosely tied. And I think they did a great job. I mean, going up against a pure classic, you got to be ready. And I think they were ready. So, yeah, look for a good score. Let's shift gears to 2011. I already know Rick's thoughts, and I don't like them, so we're going to skip him. We're going to go over to No, Rick, you can regale us with your thoughts on the story of Killer Elite.
Going back to something that Jason just said, how complex is the plot? Is it easy enough to follow? And do you care about where they're going with the plot? In watching Killer Elite, that was one of the problems I was struggling with, is that I thought that there was a lot of parts to this that got unnecessarily complex. There was a good story that was in here. There was good ideas that were in here. But on a whole, once it got put together, through the filming, through the dialogue, through a lot of other things in the film, it just became very muddled. There were times I was having a hard time caring about what was happening. When's the good fight going to come on? Oh, here's a good fight. This is great. This is great. Hey, we'll get to it, but hey, there's an old man getting beat up. That's fun. But besides that, it's like we were making a lot of jokes on things that weren't necessarily part of the film. And that's fine. But as far as the storyline itself, it just felt needlessly complex, and it shouldn't have been. There's a good story that's in there. It just didn't come across as well as it could have. That's my opinion.
Fair enough. I will see what Jason has to say, and I might weigh in as well. I don't think Rick's necessarily wrong. I'm going to say that right now.
Well, I see where Rick's coming from. I think I'm going to be a little more forgiving of it because the story tries to do an awful lot. Number one, this is the type of film where when we get to the hero portion, these aren't heroes. They're protagonists, right? And so when you get to the story element here, what you really want to do is ask the question, does the protagonist progress? You can say, yes, he does. He starts at the beginning. He's kind of washed up assassin. He moves to try to find a life of peace and fall in love and ordinary life, and then gets quickly pulled back into it because his former mentor / partner got in over his head, right? So there's interesting character developments of loyalty and conflict that I enjoyed. And when he has to do the job, it's interesting because the job they have to do is just brutal. It's just brutal. I mean, I couldn't ruthlessly just smash a man's skull in with a hammer. I couldn't do it. And yet these are the type of people who can and will. And they pull off some really difficult assassination. So there's a bit of a thriller element in there. And then you have some really good action beats, so I liked it. Did it all come together well to Rick's point? Not flawlessly, but I liked what they tried to do. I liked the character development. Pacing was a little off, but overall, I think I'm going to be a little more forgiving with this than Rick will.
I agree. I think I'll be slightly more forgiving just because, whether you want to believe it or not, if it's based on a true story and all that, it kind of speaks to reality. It's never as pretty and cookie cutter as we'd like it to be. So I think that translates a bit. And I can also be a little more forgiving because I'm a big fan of the Bourne books, especially after Eric Van Lustbader picks up at book 4. Nothing against Ludlum. He's just a little slower in terms of pacing than Lustbader is. But man, Lustbader puts in like 16 different plots in every book, and you gotta follow all those, and you had to do the same thing in this movie. So it can be a little muddled, but you know what? Let's score these things. Let's go back to the Italian Job. Jason, story 1 to 10.
I landed on a 7. I think that the plot was complex enough to keep me interested, like I said, and not so complex that I started drifting away, which is tough to do with some of these ensemble thriller heist stories.
Match game number 1, I also have it at a 7. Move it over to Killer Elite. What do you have, Jason?
I matched it with a 7, although I don't think it pulled it off quite as well as the Italian Job did. I think what they attempted to do was more ambitious. I gave it a little bit more weight for the creativity in the attempt.
All right. I have it at a 6. And I think that's because I think I'm sort of almost comparing just the engagement of the story. And Italian Job was very engaging. Killer Elite was fairly engaging, but a lot of it had to do with jokes that Rick and I were making to make it through through the movie.
That's what you get for the two of you watching it together. This movie's going to suffer all the way through because of that.
I thought it actually helped because we were making each other laugh. It was making it more engaging to watch. But anyways, I got it at a 6. Jason's got it at a 7. Rick, the only thing left for you to do is to weigh in with your sniper's bullet. Which one's going to get a +1 from you? I think we know.
Yeah, I have to go with the Italian Job on it just because it was a more interesting and engaging story. I think that you're right, Jason, that there's a lot in that film. It's really good. It's just that I think that there's some plot elements that don't need to be there. You can still have the complexity of what they were doing. Take out the romance aspect of it. Probably do something a little bit different with Robert De Niro's character and to make there be something else that pulls him in besides just going to get his friend. If you take out those parts, you can have a lot of complexity still, and it would all feed to the story. Those things just didn't feel like it fed to the story.
Yeah, I can't argue with you with the take out the romance element. That felt shoehorned in. That's a fair point.
And that's the end of round 1.
Don't force me to fight because you won't like my way of fighting.
All right, that's my cue. I got round 2, and the round 2 is the hero. So how cool is the hero? The hero and the heroes ensemble, I guess we can say. And like I said, I think when we talk about hero and Killer Elite, we're really saying protagonist. Hero might be a bit of a stretch.
Well, probably both movies because they are thieves.
That's also fair. That's a fair point. They're both felons. We'll just leave it
Lock them up, both of them.
Lock them up. That's right. I'm going to pass this over to Rick to talk about the hero from The Italian Job.
I mean, what other group of people is as cool as this? You got Handsome Rob, you got Napster, you got this new guy Wrench coming in, Left Ear, Charlie himself, and Charlize Theron, quintessential heist crew. This is right out of the Sting. It's what we see leading up to the Ocean's 11 kind of thing. You have the players coming in, you know their jobs, you know what they're going to do. It's a fun group that get along, that give each other the Mickey when they need to, but they're good and they're fun. And yes, they're thieves, but they're the thieves you want to hang out with because they're cool. You want to be as cool as that group of people.
They
want to be
don't
everything
want to
like
hurt
that.
people.
They don't want to hurt people. They don't want to hurt people. No, they don't want to hurt people at all. Well, they want to hurt Edward Norton. They want to hurt him a lot. But I don't do dogs. They don't do dogs. They don't do dogs either. No. Mm-mm. So yes, that is a good epitome of cool right there, that group.
And I couldn't say it better myself, but let's pass it over to Jared and see what he has to add.
Yeah. This is like an all-star early 2000s cast. And heck, I'd watch this cast do another movie right now. They're that much fun. Jason, I think one thing that we've learned here at Action Film Face Off that we should just pass out there for like a public service announcement, like for everyone's safety, is don't be Donald Sutherland at the beginning in a mentor role of a Jason Statham movie.
No.
He's 0 for 2 on that now.
That's right. Yeah. Donald, we barely got to know you.
Yeah. So, I mean, the crew was already cool. It had Donald Sutherland at the beginning. And then, we've talked about this many times on Action Film Face Off, especially in this category of hero. Like, the protagonist of hero is Mark Wahlberg's character, is Charlie. And what we've talked about a lot on the show is it reflected in our score. Does the team kind of average out, or does it sort of build together? Is it like the sum of the parts, right? And this is a big time sum of the parts thing. And just a shout out to my favorite scene to show how cool and touching, I guess, this team is. I love the scene where they're putting the bomb under the road. And he's like, you got to hold real still, because if I touch this copper's going to blow up. He's like, I love you, man. I love you too. And that's it. They cut away. And that's it. That's a good scene.
I like Mark Wahlberg as much as anybody else. He's fine. But he is kind of a bit of a bland white toast. And that's exactly kind of what you need for this leader on this team, because he's got the good ideas, but the cool people, the fun people are everybody around him. And if you had somebody that had more charisma that came in there and just really stole the show in that center part, everybody else would have been washed out. And I think that that's what makes this a sum of its parts really well.
Yes. It is very sort of Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, letting others around him have moments and just shine. And I think that's a really, really good observation.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Rick. Well, let's pass it back over to you, Rick, and let's talk about the protagonist, we'll say, from Killer Elite.
Who? Who's the protagonist? You mean those guys on Sabotage, the Beastie Boy video? Because I'm guessing that the people with mustaches. No, because Clive Owens had a mustache too. So
yeah, he had a good mustache too, man. That was a good.
Yeah, this was hard. I hate to be another negative on this. Jason Statham, very recognizable. We know who he is. He's the lead. He's kind of the hero figure, and he's got a couple of people that are doing work with him. To kind of look a little bit at the Italian Job, we know what everybody's role is on that team. On Jason Statham's team in Killer Elite, everybody's a killer. It's really difficult to tell them apart. It's really difficult to spread them out and to figure out who's actually doing what job. I think I know the computer guy they had at one point in time, but other than that, it's like, I don't know what anybody's role is in this. So it's really hard to kind of figure out who's good and who's bad, because you could also say Clive Owens is also a good guy, but he's kind of set up as the villain. So there's a lot of questions going in about who is the protagonist, who's the villain, because Jason Statham's doing jobs, although he doesn't want to do a job.
He made that clear.
He doesn't want to do a job.
What's the job?
What's the job? But he's doing the job. And so really it's Clive Owen and the Feathermen that are getting in and screwing with them doing their job as well as they could. So I think it's really unknown who the good guys are and what their roles are and how well they do their jobs.
Well, you bring up a very good point. I mean, Clive Owen is set up as the antagonist. Yet if you look at the motivations and what they're doing. Jason Statham is killing a bunch of people he didn't know. And it turns out he got wrong just based off of the belief of this sheik. And Clive Owen is trying to protect them out of a sense of loyalty to his regiment. And to me, as a soldier, that's far more honorable than what the protagonist is doing in the movie. So I agree with you. This one gave me some pause as I thought about the morality of the message of the film. But I've talked too much. I want to hear what Jared has to say.
Yeah, this one's weird. It's very, very gray. It's Clive Owen and Jason Statham. And again, I think it comes down to the whole based on real life. This is how real life is really gray. But I agree with my brother. Like, as soon as I was like, wait, they're going to kill special ops guys from the UK for doing their jobs? Like, what? And then Clive Owen's fighting back. And at some point, I'm like, I'm kind of rooting for Clive Owen here. I think I'm supposed to be rooting for. I think the movie does a real good job of playing around with that. And it gives you a flavor that you don't often get in movies. It's hard to decide to root for, except for the old dude beating up the punks who scratched his car.
That is true. As you were talking about that, I was like, man, I didn't put that down as the best action scene, but that was excellent.
I would watch that all day. But what works against it is its grayness, but what works for it is its grayness, because it's kind of unique in that regard. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, very good points. Yeah, this is a tough one to neatly put into this category. I think all we really have to do now, though, is score them. So
I'm curious, though, when we get around to scoring the Killer Elite, I would like to know who is the hero you are scoring on Hero Elite for you.
Oh, I'll make it very clear.
Okay.
Jared's going to make it very clear who he's scoring and what the score is going to be. Take it away, Jared.
So I guess we're starting with Italian Job, I would assume. I told you it was the sum of very cool people, so it elevated all the way to an 8 because of that was a very entertaining group of folks.
Oh, Jared, I'm a little disappointed with you on this one because I mean, are you telling me that it exceeded Roger Moore of View to a Kill?
I have him as a 10 in a View to a Kill, so I don't know what I'm saying about.
No, sir. That was our barometer. That's a 7.
Does Mark Wahlberg exceed Roger Moore in A View to a Kill? No. But with the pieces around him, yes.
Okay, I will accept that response then. I still gave it a 7. You know who loves you, Raj. Let's move it over to Killer Elite. What'd you give the protagonist?
Okay, so on this one, I gave it a 7.
Okay.
And it's one part Statham and one part Clive Owen. You know how I said it's like the sum and then the average? It's like an average.
Yep.
Because for a little while there, I thought Clive Owen was the villain. And the more I thought about it, I was like, nah, I'm on this guy's side, but I want these guys to win. And we've talked about it. So I just kind of took the cool badassery of Statham. And I'm like, hey, he's pretty cool. Maybe about a 6. But then I said Clive Owen was a tough dude. So I bumped it to 7. And that's how I came to it.
All right. Fair enough. Match game. I gave it a 7 as well. I just looked at it as Statham. I thought he did a good job playing his part. I thought the character progressions were nice. Like Rick said, some of those scenes, man, maybe we could have done without. But overall, I thought he pulled it off. So 7 for me as well. But there's still the sniper. So, Rick, I'm going to let you lock and load and let me know who's getting the bullet between Italian Job and Killer Elite for the subject of hero.
After hearing you guys talk, I am more convinced than ever that the hero of Killer Elite quite possibly is Clive Owen. So that's who I'm looking at on that side. On the other side, I'm looking at the entire team. And I'm sorry, I got to go with that entire team on Italian Job. That is just the fun group I want to hang out with. That is a group getting the job done. They are making it happen and they're having fun doing it. So they get my love and they get my bullet.
So let it be written, so let it be done. Passing it back to you, Jared.
That must mean it's time for round 3.
You gotta ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Round 3 is the villain. How menacing or entertaining is your villain? How memorable is your villain? I think that's the best word that we use on this show. How memorable is your villain? Jason, you get to start with everybody loves to hate. Edward Norton. He's one of those actors, man, that's just like, he's so good at this. But you talk about it.
Edward Norton playing it. Who would have thought it, right? There we go. Well, Edward Norton is a great actor. he's one of those people where as soon as I saw him in the film, I was like, he's a bad guy.
Yeah, get ready to be betrayed.
Yeah. It's kind of like, you remember when there was that Mark Strong was in all those movies? It's like, he's the traitor. He's the bad guy. Traitor.
It's
traitor,
called
bad guy.
Max von Sydow disease, by the way. Judge Dredd was the only movie he remained a good guy. I'm almost positive.
Oh man. Yeah, so he's a good actor. I thought that the villain in this one was a little underbaked for me. He was just bad for the sake of being bad. There was kind of no backstory to it. I never really got the sense in the entire film that our heroes were in any real danger of failing. Like, he didn't even seem to measure up to the heroes in any capacity. He was almost a buffoon, kind of like a Scooby-Doo villain in a lot of ways. And the mustache, it looked like I could just rip that little mustache right off. That's not a real mustache. So I guess from the terms of menace and character development, Hans Gruber, he wasn't. We'll just leave it at that.
I have an interesting take on this, but I got to let Rick talk first. Go ahead, Rick.
I kind of agree with you. I know that from my own research of this was a film that Edward Norton was forced to do. He was told that he had to do it. He owed, I think it was Paramount, he owed them another film, and they said, you will do this film or we will take you to court. And so he was doing it under duress. That being said, he still comes in like Edward Norton. He can still do a job, and I think he does it well. Like you said, he comes in, it's not like Darth Vader, but we see him, we know, yep, he's the bad guy, great. And they even say it in the film. Yeah, he's taking all of our ideas. He doesn't have anything original. The only thing that he does is he throws money at the problem. And so the thing that our team is doing is they're getting by the money problems that Edward Norton's putting in front of them. But Edward Norton himself, no, he's not a threat. They know he's not a threat. It's just, how can we beat this new obstacle, which is fine. But I think you're correct. I think that as far as in the pantheon of great villains, this is the bad idea that Ian Fleming threw away for a possible third tier Bond villain that gets killed early in the novel. You know, that's kind of the level we're talking about putting up to Bond.
And the unique spin I'll put on this, because I think I liked it a little more than you guys did, is I think the smart thing the movie did was say your villain's personality is that he is such a turd. He doesn't have one. Just like Rick said, he stole everybody else's ideas because he didn't know what to do with it. Like, his whole definition of character is like, I want some money, you know, and that, but like, they lean into that. Like, that's all he is. And it's like on purpose. So yeah. I cut it a little more slack, and nobody plays smarmy. You just want to smack him like Norton does. But anyways, let's shift gears and go to 2011. This is going to get tough. We've already talked about there's a couple different angles of protagonists, antagonists. And then, of course, you've got the Sheikh who's pulling strings. You know, Jason, what do you think, man? What do you think?
You know, I just Occam's razored it and said that really Clive Owen's the antagonist to Jason Statham in this film. So that's the angle I went, and we can take different angles and everybody be absolutely right. So I'll tell you what I thought about Clive Owen. When I watched this, I remembered the days when Clive Owen was being batted around for Bond after Brosnan. And I saw him in this, and I was like, damn it, why do we have to go with Dan? You know, he would have been such a good Bond. There, I said it. It's out there. It's recorded for all posterity.
This is me arguing with you.
Oh no, stop.
Oh no. I would have loved to at least seen it and get him get a shot, but anyway.
I would have too. Yeah. The way he carries himself in this film, the menace, the look in his eyes, his physical build, the way he dresses, he is dangerous. He's a dangerous man without a mission, and he's looking for something to hit. And Jason Statham just comes along, and that, my friends, that leads to tension and leads to a pretty decent score.
I like it. Rick, thoughts on what are your thoughts on the villainy of Killer Elite? It's a tough one.
First of all, I like Daniel Craig. I'm gonna stand here and don't be mean to Daniel Craig.
He's all right.
Okay. He's
all
okay.
right.
It's okay to like Daniel. It's okay.
It's all right. I like Daniel Craig too, but
no. As far as what you're saying, I would have liked to see more of that movie, Jason. I would have liked to see more of that movie and it being more focused on Clive Owens really trying to stop these guys and really being more of that menace and really getting more and more frustrated because we see a little bit of it. You're right. That's the best part of the movie when we see that happening. It's the best fight that we're going to probably be getting to as well. But as far as what I'm thinking, because I was looking at Clive Owens' character as the hero, I'll look at Jason Statham as the villain. And I think that if looking at it that way, this film actually has some real moments of tension. And then there's a real fear on the rest of the SAS people. They are in the sights of this guy who is trying to save his friend, who's trying to do his job and kill these people. And you've got this frustrated hero over here that can't stop him. And the movie's about this guy. Going from that light, I think that Jason Statham makes a pretty good villain in this film. It's easy to see him in that role. It's easy to play this game of that being the storyline of this film and being impressed about what he's trying to do and how he's trying to do it. If we get rid of the silly love story out of this and we actually have something else besides his friendship with Robert De Niro, because I still don't understand why De Niro's in this film, but I do like Jason Statham. I do like the tension that does exist between those two main characters.
Yeah, you could almost make two movies out of this, one from Clive Owens' perspective and one from Statham's perspective. That's a good point.
Just to clue the listening audience in as to how weird the villain is, we've just had Clive be the villain. We've just had Jason be the villain. And I'm going to pick category number 3, which you might think I'm going to say it's the Sheik, but...
You're going Featherman.
No.
That would be a fourth or fifth one then.
Son.
Sheik's son.
Because the Sheik, at least you can understand his pain and his anger. The son was an opportunistic turd that was just playing everybody the whole time. So
fair. Yeah.
I'm going to say that guy and some other people that got shot. I don't know. Let's go back and score them. Jason, Italian Job 2003, 1 to 10. How much do you love to hate Edward Norton in this film?
I love to hate Edward Norton in general, but in this film to a tune of a 6.
I understand it. I gave him the bump up to the 7 because at least the movie addressed that his personality is that he has no personality. They addressed it. Just watching him try to work his game on the cable lady, that was entertaining all of itself.
Well, I got a big TV.
So smooth. All right, let's move to 2011's Killer Elite. Not to be confused with the one from the 70s. Probably should have addressed that earlier in the episode. Anyways, they're not related in any way other than title. Jason, the hot mess of villainy. What'd you give it?
7. I think any way you look at it, these are some complex villains, and there's a lot of tension, and you feel it in the film. So well performed across the board. So 7 for me.
I was just so confused. I ended up giving it a 6. I think it's one of those things where it more averaged out than added up for me. We got to start getting some match games here because Rick's got us at 6. We only have 2 so far. Speaking of Rick, Sniper Bullet.
Going into this, I would have said I was going to give it to Italian Job, but now that we've been playing a little bit of a chess game with the different characters and where they go and what we think of them, I'll actually go ahead and surprise you, and I'll give the villain to Killer Elite because I think that, especially between the two, there is no heroes at all in Killer Elite, but there is many villains in Killer Elite, and I think that there's a better story with good versus bad in there. The other one's just a heist movie, and yes, we like to see Edward Norton get taken down, but as far as a better villain, that's in Killer Elite, so I'll give it to them.
There we have it. That's the end of round 3.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
All right, moving this thing right along. I'll pick up the baton for round 4, which is the overall spectacle. So how engaging is the film overall? We're talking stunts, effects, cinematography, soundtrack, score, all that good stuff. Jared, what are your thoughts on the spectacle for The Italian Job?
My thoughts are very positive. It is a very spectacle movie, really more than anything based off of its pacing, which I think Rick brought up in the story. it just moves from pop to pop to pop, and it's entertaining and engaging all the way. A lot of times when we talk spectacle round on this podcast, talk about, do you check your phone and all that? I'd seen this movie before, and I still didn't check my phone because it just pops so well from moment to moment, keeps you engaged. Really well done. Props to F. Gary Gray on that, just as a good director of keeping it moving. And whoever the editor was, I should give a shout out to them because they really did a great job. I'm a big musical score kind of guy. This one's not super memorable, but it's very serviceable. Like I don't want to say serviceable with the negative connotation, but it really fits and it really works. Like you said, Jason, this is weird because it's not truly an action film. There's no bang, 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 stabby, but it's just so darn engaging with how they do it. So yeah, look for a good score.
I agree 100%. I think my only criticism is if you're going to call it The Italian Job, I would have liked it to started maybe in LA and then ended in Italy.
That's a good point that I hadn't even thought about.
I thought to me, like, that was the best part of the movie was right up front. I've talked too much. Rick, go ahead and weigh in.
I would agree with you a little bit on that with the name of the film, but because everything started with how that Italian Job that they did had gone south, and it was all their reaction to it. Whereas you look at the original Italian Job film, everything is about the Italian Job that they're doing in Italy at that time. Again, it's a nice twist on what the movie is talking about. They're reacting to the terrible thing that occurred to them in the job that they did at the beginning. But you look at how it starts. It's almost like a James Bond-esque opening where you have this big heist thing that's going on, and then this horrible thing occurs, and now we're in the future and we're into the movie proper. I think that this spectacle is wonderful. The car chase scenes, the setup, the heist thing. I said it before. This is a prelude to the Ocean's movies that are going to be coming very soon down the pike. And you can just see them really setting up building blocks that George Clooney and Brad Pitt just take off with the 3 Ocean's movies that come very soon after. This is a good heist movie, and it does it well. And there has never, ever been a better commercial for Mini Coopers than this film.
You're right about that.
How many Mini Coopers did this sold Mini Coopers the way that they got people into the Air Force and Navy from doing Top Gun? Okay.
That's a fair point. That is
right. I don't think the word Mini Cooper had come out of my mouth until 2003 with this movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are those?
What are those and when can I get one now?
Yeah, really cool. Yeah.
Well, okay, so we got 2 good overviews for The Italian Job. What do we think, Jared, about the spectacle for Killer Elite?
I'm also pretty high on the spectacle for this one, too, because here you do get a lot of bam, 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 bam. I don't do as good as Jason, but I tried. But the complexity, over-complexity maybe, of the plot does stall it out in certain areas, but when it picks back up really well. What it reminds me of is like a John, we're cutting deep on the James Bond references here, but a John Gardner James Bond book where it has like a lot of intrigue and setup and then big action piece payoffs. And yeah, I did enjoy it. Was it as snappy as The Italian Job? No, but it had a certain grittiness. This is a great time to mention that it is an excellent period piece, especially because we're sitting there, Rick and I are watching it. I'm like, what? All these like really kind of badass, super in shape SAS guys, they all smoke. What's the deal with that? And then we both look at each other and went, oh yeah, it's 1981. Like, yeah, everybody smoked back then.
They're chain smoking too.
I think our boy was wearing like a black members only jacket. And so
the haircuts and facial hair.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yes. They really did a good job, I think, of capturing the period piece. And I think that plays well in its favor for spectacle. So there you have it.
I agree with your assessment where there's a lot of splash in Italian Job. There's a lot of grit in Killer Elite. But I'm interested in what Rick has to say.
Yeah, it's a different movie than what we're talking about with Italian Job. It's very gray tones, very heavy gray tones. Even when they're in the desert talking to the Sheik, it's still gray. And it's like, are we in the desert or are we still in London? I can't tell. A lot of dark rooms, a lot of shadows. The action sequences are very visceral, very dirty fighting scenes. The somber music, Jared, you didn't even mention any of the score on that film because I mean, it was back there. I'm sure it was part of it. If we really paid attention, we probably could have noticed it, but didn't really, didn't stand out at all. But I don't think we wanted to in something like this film. You were in what they were filming. They had a theme. They had a goal with showing something that was dirty. That was something that was very set in the period, like you said. It put you in that mindset. So I think the film accomplished everything it wanted to. It's just a different flavor between this and Italian Job. I kind of like the Italian Job for what it had. This one, matching it up to the two, it's kind of hard, but it did its job right. And you did get into the film and you know what they were selling. So it was good.
Yeah, it's kind of like ice cream and pickles. You know, I like both those things, but, you know, putting them side by side together, it's tough. Well, I think all that's left to do now is score them. And Jared, I'm interested to see what kind of score you're going to give the spectacle for the Italian Job.
Almost exclusively on how engaging the pacing is. I gave this an 8. This is a movie I just watch and I don't check my phone.
Well, once again, you're telling me that this is visually engaging is A View to a Kill. I say shenanigans. I say it's a 7, and that's where I'm going to go.
I score A View to a Kill a 10 on everything.
I hear you. That's not what you said before. That's not what we agreed upon. No, I will for villain. Yes, 10.
Happiest in the saddle. That's
all
right. Schedule.
Oh, well, what about the spectacle for Killer Elite?
A whole different type, like we said, but gritty and period piece wins a lot of points with me to the tune of a 7.
See, I went the other way. I gave that one an 8. My man went and started killing people using a loaf of bread as a silencer. How many times do you see a man use a loaf of bread as a silencer, Jared?
I have things to say about that later.
Yeah.
I love it. Don't get me wrong.
It was awesome. It was awesome. I don't know if it works that way, but
I can't remember if we paused it there or not, but there was a thought about, wait, what's happening?
He's using that as a silencer.
What's happening here?
This is crazy. Well, we still need the sniper to weigh in. So, Rick, who's getting the bullet for spectacle?
I'm going to have to go with the good old heist movie. I always like a good heist movie that's going to be doing things in good order. You've got a little bit of surprise. You've got a little bit of setup. What exactly are they doing? They've got a plan. What's happening with it? How fast are those plans going? How quick is the patter? How much does the scenes cut in? And how can I follow the story with everything that's going on? I just really enjoyed the entire spectacle of what's going on with Italian Job. I've got to give it to them.
Oh, well, there you go. That's the final word, Jared. So I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, time for round 5. Round 5 is best action scene, and this is where my brother kind of breaks it down and gives us some of the highlighted action scenes from each of the movies. We're going to talk about which ones we like the best, and we'll score them. It all makes sense in a minute. Jason, let's start with the Italian Job. Pretty much 2 heists. I don't know. What do you got?
Let's see what I got here. First one I call the Italian Job, or I got the gold Andy Coli.
From the water.
From the water. Yeah, I would not have been in that water. I just want to make that very clear. The second one, I did the LA Job. That's the next big event is when they actually do the heist. Or, and this is more of a thought, really, the LBC crew, like, we really need a math guy or gal on our team. I thought about it because I was like, how would our Italian Job team be filled out? Your team leader, you'd be like Mark Wahlberg. I was trained in demolitions. I could be left ear. Pat's good on computers, so he could be Napster. And then you got, of course, pretty boy Delvin Williams as Handsome Rob, right?
Yeah.
But where we would have fallen apart are all those times when he had to like map the calculations and the ratio and the. I mean, our safe would have like got stuck halfway.
Or we blown up the whole building.
Or we just blown up the whole floor. I mean, there's no way. And so I thought.
I mean, we haven't even done a job, and I've got E. coli twice.
And they didn't get any gold. So anyway, that was the next one. So then what I did was, because I think the big action scene post heist is the car chase. through the tunnel and,
Yeah.
and through the thing. And I think that's kind of like the big memorable thing folks kind of remember. So I called that one, Hold This Door For Me. I thought you'd like that one. And then the last one was Car Chase Part 2, but with the helicopter, Marky Mark versus Edward Norton. And I called that one, Ed Norton must have paid that dude a heck of a lot of dough, man. Right? That dude did some crazy. Like, there's no way. I'd be like, I'm just here to fly you, dude. I'm not flying him. I'm not using my tail rotor to try to kill this dude in a Mini Cooper. I'm not doing that stuff.
You want me to do what?
What? No, I'm not doing it.
What you don't know is that Nick Nolte played the pilot. He just didn't care. He's like,
Hang on. All right, let's go.
Oh, what the hell? I guess we'll fly under there. Well, let's talk about. Well, which one was your favorite, Jason? Which of those action scenes was your favorite?
I'm going with the iconic canal chase.
Yeah, most similar to the original movie, I think. Not exactly, but most similar. But Rick, what do you think? You like the canal chase too?
I got to go with that too. Just the part where they're going up and down on the walls, jumping through the canal, just everything that they're doing with those Mini Coopers is amazing. It's fun, it's enjoyable, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I've always loved in movies when there's like, go get them, right? And it's like two guys on a motorcycle chasing three cars. I'm like, this is a real easy problem to solve. I've never understood the whole motorcycle guys versus car guys seems very lopsided to me.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's because like, oh, they're right behind us. Oh, they got just slam on the brakes, man. Your problems are going to all be solved. I guarantee you.
Didn't we see that in Magnum Force or one of those Clint Eastwood movies? It was like, wait, why am I running from this guy?
Why am I running?
I got a car.
Still, it's fun to watch, and I'll join you guys on the Cooper chase. All right, Jason, what do you got for us over on Killer Elite? And why are we all going to pick the hospital fight?
Yeah, I don't know. This is more formality. I opened it up with the Mexican assassination, the assassination in Mexico, or I called that one, let's get some chili con carnage.
Nice.
Little homage to some video games there. The second kind of big action sequence is when he tries to break Robert De Niro out of jail. I called that one. Did he use bread as a silencer? And can you do that?
We'll look into it.
Yeah.
Laurel.
We got to look that one up. The third one is the hospital fight, or I called that one Code Blue Balls.
Yes, sir. He did hit him squaw.
He got those nuts squashed, man. Then there's and I kind of got them out of sequence, I think, because I also included the tunnel chase where they chase that guy through the desert and he.
With the bees.
With the bees. And I said he made a beeline to the exit. And then the final one I had was that last kind of fight and escape when he was tied to the chair and everything. And I called that one Have a Seat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have to also throw in the old man beatdown.
So I thought about that one, and I think what I'll call that one is A-O, let's go. I'm going to blitzkrieg bop your face.
Oh, that's better. I was going to call it Harry Brown, the prequel, but you win.
Yeah.
Rick and I enjoyed that so much. I was like, Rick, if you like watching old dudes beat up on young punks, you need to see Harry Brown.
Oh, yeah. Harry Brown's a good one.
We're at that point in time in the movie, we're also kind of sitting there going like, something's going to happen. Did that guy just beat the crud out of those two skinheads?
Like, oh,
where did that come from?
It's great.
He keyed his car, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he let him know about it. So that one will be all of our honorable mentions. But is anyone here not picking the hospital fight?
It's the hospital fight, hands down. Holy cow, that was cool.
Rick and I made a lot of great jokes about how like Statham just drops a white lab coat on. He's just automatically a doctor. Everybody believes it. Just everybody believes he's a doctor.
Oh, it's Dr. Skinhead.
Oi. I'll take the job. Okay. But anyways, yeah, man, that
and it starts off with a pretty good car chase too.
It does. Good. Yeah, good call. It does. And oh, by the way, it did something that you rarely see in movies. If I'm not mistaken, I could be, but my memory tells me that post that scene, the next time you see Clive Owen, he's still tender.
Yeah.
Like he walks a little, if not comically, but like, the movie's guy gets shot in the nuts all the time. And it's like, 10 minutes later, he's fine. It's like, not like that. That was like Casino Royale to the.
Yeah, he caught that leg, pulled it like a wishbone, and just hammer fisted him right in the boys. Holy cow.
Man, that fight was legit though. So you know what? Let's do some scoring. Let's go to the Italian Job. Cool car chase with the Mini Coopers and the subways and all that jazz. 1 to 10, Jason.
I gave that one a 7 as well. I thought that was well done, well above average. So 7 for me.
Yeah. I'm a kind of a hard sell on car chases in general. They have to be pretty spectacular for me, but that was very solid, and I gave it a 7. So we've gotten to 3 match games. We're not going to make it to 6.
We're not going to make it to 6. Not on this one.
Killer Elites, really cool fight in the hospital, which if you're going to get your ass kicked, that's a good place to be.
Yeah,
I think you don't have far to go to get some help,
So, Jason, 1 to 10.
I gave it an 8, 4 for each of his boys.
Match game number 2. Or 4, I'm sorry. I won't even try for that one. Match game number 4. And all that's left is for Rick. You kind of got a little unenviable position here. Better action scenes. Which movie?
I love Italian Job over Killer Elite, but I got to be fair. One of them's a heist movie. One of them's an action movie. There's a couple of good action set pieces in Italian Job, but there's good action movie fodder in Killer Elite. It's got the one great scene in there. It's got the good honorable mention, and it's got a little ridiculous other scenes in there as well. But I'll go ahead and throw it over to Killer Elite for this one.
Laurel, we need a Glock 9 and a 6-inch sub. All right, sorry, I'm back. Well, then, that is the end of round 5. It's over to Jason for round 6.
Put the knife away and shut your mouth.
All right, round 6. That's the deduction round, the round for the ridiculous, where we can take up to 10 points off of either film for what we thought were low points. Jared, are you going to take a point or more from either of these films?
I do have a deduction.
Oh,
I do.
Interesting. We've been going easy on these films recently, so we've got one today.
I almost deducted, like I had it written down. -1 is when they introduced Charlize Theron's character in Italian Job. But she's a terrible driver. She's like cutting people off, zipping in and out. I'm like, use your blinkers,
Yeah.
I get you're trying to teach us that she's cool and all, but she's downright dangerous at this point. But I erased it when I read the little factoid that she was the best driver on the crew. So they probably just filmed her coming to and from work every day, which, funny enough, I didn't put this in as a bonus fun fact. She did get ticketed twice going to the set of this movie, and one time it was like for 40 over.
Apparently her reason for going that fast too was that she had been driving fast on set all day and she couldn't turn it off.
Yeah, like it was in her DNA at that point. So I thought, okay.
Plus also, you pull her over like, I want to give you a ticket. Oh, never mind.
I get it. Can I get an autograph selfie? Okay, you could.
You're good to go.
All right, so my legit -1 is for the Killer Elite. And Rick and I had a good discussion after it was over, and I liked it more than Rick did. But we both agreed on one thing. So they were given this mission to go kill SAS guys and get them to admit to these murders.
And to make it look like an accident.
Right? So they had this tremendously difficult job, right? What's the job? Tremendously difficult job. Before that, with the loaf of bread and kind of a dehydrated, been hanging out in the cell too long, De Niro, they came this close to breaking out of that compound, which Rick and I agreed by the end of the movie. We're like, it would have been easier for him to say, I'll take the job, go get his crew, come back to the compound, kill everybody, and pull De Niro out. It would have been easier to do that than what he agreed to do. And that's where this movie falls apart for me, because I'm like, he almost did it with 2 guys. One of them was like, I've been in prison for a while.
No plan. No plan.
1 pistol and a loaf of bread. I thought if he just brought his crew back, maybe got 4, 5, 6 more guys, especially with a good plan. Boom. You kill everybody there. You kill the Sheik. You kill his weasel son. Everybody there. And you pull out Bobby D and you're done. -1. You took the harder route.
Interesting. I don't have a good argument.
And now you don't have to fight Clive Owen.
He doesn't even know what's going on.
In fact, if you go to Clive Owens and say, hey, this guy hired me to kill all your SAS people, you think you can give me a hand? Click. Yep. I'll take the job.
Yeah.
and I'll get these SAS people to come
These guys will help.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. No, that's
better movie.
That's a fair point.
So -1 for not taking the easiest path.
I also have a -1. Mine's going to the other way, to the Italian Job. This one was pointed out to me by my son, who watched Italian Job with me. When Edward Norton betrays him at the beginning of the movie, betrays the team, that gold was getting split 5 ways. He had about a dozen guys.
Yes.
So Jared, Drake was like, doesn't he have to split the gold even more?
How does the split work?
How does this work? Yeah. He actually has more people that he's got to split this with now. So kind of, I guess, along the same lines, it's like, there's a little,
I would argue to say that probably Edward Norton screwed those people too and got all the money back himself.
I wouldn't screw over a bunch of people. I mean, he hired like hitmen. You know
I would have screwed over his team of people. I mean, he's pissing off Handsome Rob. That's a bad idea right there.
Well, I think that the math didn't quite line up on this one.
That is legit.
So both will get a -1. And let's get any further airing of grievances, or Rick, were you dogpiling on Jared's point?
No, I just had one question for Jared, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, but he is our resident knife and helicopter expert. So, Jared, what is the logistics of that helicopter scene? I mean, it's insane, but
it's insane.
Is it possible?
Okay. Yes, it is possible. I actually read in the trivia that they used almost no CGI in that scene, that they did bring a helicopter down there and fly it around and all that, which is dumb. I would have done CGI. It's so dangerous. Just because the way the winds pick up and change in that confined space, it's just dangerous. I mean, the one time our father almost crashed his helicopter in Iraq was when he was just taking off, and it was because the churn of the sand was starting to press the helicopter down. It's weird how the physics work. But, I mean, they did it for real. But the whole, I'm going to swing my tail into him, never. No, that's like, dear death, come get me. Signed helicopter guy. So yeah.
You know what I think about Tomorrow Never Dies with that scene. Kind of
just as dumb.
Yeah, just as dumb.
Anytime they're like, I'm gonna use my blades to get no. No. Not at all. Good question though. That is the end of our official rounds. Now, don't you worry if you haven't been keeping up with the math at home, folks. We do that for you here at Action Film Face Off. Looking at the match game, Rick picked 6, and I felt good about that 6, but Jason and I ended up match gaming only 4 times. But man, our scores were close on a lot of things. As far as sniper bullets, which is going to make a big impact today, Rick gave 3 to the Italian Job and 2 to Killer Elite. And looking at the scorecards, the winner of this episode of Action Film Face Off, with a score of 73 to 72, the Italian Job.
Wow, that was close, man. That was really close.
Fun fact, I gave Italian Job 37 points. Jason gave it 33. Jason gave Killer Elite 37 points. I gave it 33.
Wow.
We straight up tied. If Rick hadn't been here, we would have had to make one of those phone calls like Joe November or something to pick the winner.
Didn't we have to do that once with your son to pick?
Yeah. It was Commando versus the One.
Oh, man. Well, congratulations to the Italian Job. Now let's head over to the randomizer and find out what the years are going to be for our next episode. My brother Jared will be pulling a film from
Choose Your Destiny.
2002. And I will bring a film from
Choose Your Destiny.
2000. And what will those films be? We'll tease them on social media for those of you who want to watch before listening, and we're thinking about you, Dave. Or you can tune in next episode to find out. Until then, I'm Jason Weasel Skull Albrick, and you can find me on social media at Jason Albrick on Instagram or Threads.
And you can find me, Jared Albrick, the Yard Sale Artist, a.k.a. Death Probe, at Yard Sale Artist on X, Facebook, or Instagram. You can check out my artwares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. Rick, thank you for being here and being our sniper, and let folks know where they can unpack their power.
Well, you can find me and my wheelman, who I call Mediocre Jeff, at our podcast, Unpacking the Power of Power Pack. And we talk about Power Pack and we drink beer. That's what we do. Check us out.
It's one of your better ones. Mediocre Jeff.
That's funny.
I like it. Oh, where was that? Okay. Well, be sure to check out all the shows under the Longbox Crusade umbrella by subscribing to Longbox Crusade on all the finer podcatchers or some of the sketchier ones. Or if you just want to do our podcast on YouTube, that's an option as well. You can also go to www.longboxcrusade.com. If you want to send us a question or a comment like that cool feedback we got from Matt at the front of the show, you can do that lots of different ways. Social media at Longbox Crusade. That's X, Facebook, Instagram. It's all Longbox Crusade. Of course, YouTube is also Longbox Crusade. If you want to be very pointed, a couple ways you can do that. We also have at AFFO Podcast on Twitter, and that's monitored just pretty much by me. So we'd love to hear from you there if you have any direct questions about this specific show. And you can always, the most pointed way to do it, leave us a voicemail. That's what Matt did. He dialed 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone. Take the job.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you listening. Until next episode, keep your head down
and your knuckles up.
The intro and outro theme to this show and all of our Action Film Face-Off shows are done by musical genius Joe November. Check out his SoundCloud at JOSEFLIN99. You will not regret it.
2 films live.
Just one leaves.
Oh, yeah. Well, not how we do it down under. I'll try that again.
She's gonna blow him away.
You're supposed to let me finish it off.
And Jared, I want you to know that you are not a weirdo.